This is Weekly Woman by Jubilance for PMS. A professional volleyball player currently living it up in Switzerland, Rachel Giustino is anything but ordinary. Hailing from Illinois and from Murray State with 1,764 total kills when you hit the volleyball over the net and get a point, in case you don't know what that is. This queen of the court was the Ohio Valley Conference Player of the Year and an honorable mention All-American by the American Volleyball Coaches Association. This outside hitter comes from a family of athletes. Her dad, Gerard, played pro baseball after also being a college athlete. She eventually wants to become a dentist, and after graduating from college last year, she experienced the graduation was shut down. We're so excited to talk to her about all of this. Welcome, Rachel.
Hello.
Yay! We're so excited that you're here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Okay, so we start off with some fun questions. Okay, what is the job that you thought you would have when you were 5?
Okay, so like most little kids who think science is cool, I was so certain that I was going to be a marine biologist. And I thought this because I felt in my heart like I was a mermaid, and I was like, that's just the job for me. Like, I'm meant to be with the ocean animals. And so,
Oh my gosh, did you think you could grow a tail?
Yeah. Have you ever seen The 13th Year?
Yes,
The
it's
Disney
so
Channel?
good.
On my 13th birthday, my heart was broken when I didn't grow gills.
I'm so sorry. Wow.
Yeah, still kind of holding out, but
I loved that film. It was so good. Did you also watch H2O?
Yeah.
It was so good.
It was. Any kind of mermaid content, I was here for it.
Yes. Our other sister, Gretchen, she watches that series once a year. She is obsessed.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Speaking of obsessed, what are you obsessed with?
I wouldn't say that I'm an obsessive person. I think that I have a genre of information. I know a lot about various science topics.
Ooh.
I think microbiology is really, really cool. And the gut microbiome is something that I would love to research more, but I wouldn't say it's an obsession, more of an academic interest.
Oh, that's really cool. I have many obsessions, which are probably not great. But
well, I've met your sister, so I can see that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. What is your favorite snack?
I'm definitely a salty snacker, so any kind of pita chip, pretzel chip that I can shovel hummus into my mouth with, that is really, I would say, somewhere in my favorite. But currently I'm living in Switzerland, and the chocolate here is, ridiculous, and I eat much more than I'm willing to tell you.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could have some right now. Samantha, my sister, brought some home, and it is just amazing. It melts on your tongue.
It's so good. And they say that it's so good, and so when you arrive, you're like, well, it's got to be so good. And it blows all your expectations. It's that good.
I'm normally not a milk chocolate person. I gravitate towards dark chocolate. But it is just amazing. How do they make it so much better than anywhere else?
I wish I knew. I would be much wealthier if I did.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of your life abroad, where is your favorite place you've ever traveled?
I went on a business trip with my dad 2 spring breaks ago. He had some meetings in Dubai, and I got to be his assistant.
Cool.
And that was just so incredible. Everything there is gorgeous. There is not an ugly car. There's not an ugly sidewalk. There's not an ugly person. Everything in Dubai is plated in gold. It's gorgeous.
Wow, that's amazing. What were you guys doing there? So your dad
he had
work
all day, and so I hung out in the hotel. I walked around. I didn't do very much stuff by myself because being a woman in the UAE was kind of, I wasn't really supposed to be alone, so I hung out in the fancy hotel.
Oh, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, Yeah, it was incredible. I would love to go back.
Wow. And can you talk about where you're living now? So you're in Switzerland. Can you talk about your little town that you're in?
Yeah, so I'm living in Dudingen. It's like a 20-minute train ride from Bern, which is, I guess, the technical capital of Switzerland. But it's definitely not like the biggest city here. But Dudingen is this teeny tiny little town. I live right across the street from the train station, so I feel very connected to the rest of Switzerland. But like, it's got one main road. All of the grocery stores and restaurants are on this road. I also live across from the doctor's office, and I live next door to a kebab place, and I often make jokes that I live there.
That is amazing. I love
Yeah.
kebabs. Have you
Yep,
tried
I
them?
also love kebabs.
That's awesome. Wow, that's so convenient.
It is.
What is your favorite part about living in Switzerland?
I think this is the first time that I've ever really this is the first time I've ever lived abroad. And so just getting to kind of experience European culture is really cool. And I think that Switzerland is a unique place because it is sort of a hodgepodge of different cultures, similar to the way that America is like a bunch of different cultures all kind of combining into this new, unique dynamic. And that's kind of what Switzerland is. And the town that we live in actually is like right on the border between the French speaking cantons and the German speaking cantons. So I hear French and German and English all the time. And it's just kind of this neat little meeting place.
That's so cool. Do you speak either of those languages?
No. Sadly, I took 8 years of Spanish, and so I can
Oh,
speak
wow.
like intermediate Spanish, like I could get by. And so sometimes the French makes a little more sense to me because it's
Oh,
similar roots. So like I can figure things out, but
yeah.
no, I'm hopeless with German.
Oh, okay. Do they speak a lot of English there too then? You're able to get by?
Yeah, most people, like if someone, I have to speak with someone in a store or like at the post office, there's usually a young person there who speaks English. I would say that a lot of the younger generation speaks English, and I've started to recognize enough words that sometimes I don't even have to ask, but for the
Okay.
most part, people speak English.
Oh, cool. And
Mhm.
you came there in a very like different type of situation. Can you talk a little bit about like the past year? I mean, we've had COVID, it's been quarantine. Um, like, did you even know that you were gonna play? Can you talk a little bit about going from like your graduation at Murray State and how
Mhm.
different that was to making it overseas?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of when COVID started to become more of a serious thing in the US, like when people started to actually think that it was, happening here, I was finishing up my last semester of college, and, there was talk about COVID, but it hadn't shut anything down yet. No one had been impacted by it yet in the way that we now see that everyone's been impacted by COVID. So we were all just kind of like, there were like rumors like, oh, this could get bad. But it didn't feel very real. And I was thinking about where I was going to play overseas. So my head was completely somewhere else. I was fielding calls from various European men. I said that like the whole process of finding where I was going to play was like speed dating. Like I was getting phone calls all the time, and it was just like, how can I help you? So all of this is happening, and then we go on spring break. Um, and I was going on a backpacking trip in Florida, and at that point, COVID was more real, I guess is what you would say. Like people knew that it was happening, but I felt fairly safe going on a backpacking trip because it was going to be me and my 3 friends in a car. We were not going to be around other people. We were going hiking and camping. Like we were going to be far away from others. And so I go on this trip, and on the second day or third day, we get an email that classes are, there's another break for 2 more weeks. And so
Wow.
I'm like, great, longer spring break. And then 2 days later, while I'm sitting on the beach, we're about to head home, I get an email that all of my classes are moved online for the rest of the semester. And
Wow.
so I'm just like, what is even happening? All of everything was suddenly completely up in the air. It was like in that moment, everything became so real and couldn't be ignored. And, I look back on it now, like how foolish of me to think that this was just something that would pass. But, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, I think all of us were a little frazzled. My sister came home, my other sister came home here, and she thought it would be 2 weeks, and then she'd go back to her place in Manhattan, and it ended up being 7 months, 8 months.
Yeah, it's crazy. It hit everyone like a bus.
Yeah.
And so from that point, I feel like I've had this like constant feeling of like there's no permanence to anything anymore. So right after that happened, I had to finish my semester online. I had to sign a contract. And everything I was doing just felt like, I don't know if this is ever going to be something that really happens. I signed with this team, I think in April, I signed the contract, and, people would ask me about it, and I would say, I can't even really be that excited because who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like, who knows if I'm ever actually going to go? I'm saying I'm going, but I also said that I was going to graduate college and walk in my graduation ceremony. And, that didn't happen.
Oh man. What did they do for the graduation then?
So initially, they were going to push us all to the December graduation, and they were just going to make the December graduation a bigger ceremony because normally fewer people graduate halfway through the school year. And obviously nothing was better. That was their game plan months ago, and then as this pandemic has progressed, they realized, well, that's not really a feasible option. So they did an online graduation in December, but I didn't even watch.
I'm sorry. That's gotta be just depressing because like you don't even have a chance to say goodbye to some friends or to professors. That's really tough.
And it's a different kind of like suck because it's not like a tangible thing that I've lost. It's more like, well, this is something that I had no idea what it would be like. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, and so I'm the first one to graduate college. I've never been to a college graduation. And so it was just like, oh, well, that's not happening. And it's almost just like mourning the loss of something that was never really real.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting way to like process emotions because I'm not grieving because it wasn't something that I wanted that badly, like it's just a formality. But I think that this class who didn't get to graduate, and probably future classes if things continue to, be so bad, I think it's just going to be a really unique experience that we don't quite have the equipment to process.
Yeah. I think this will be a year that we'll all have to process in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, it just keeps snowballing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad Samantha and you are out of the country and
and together.
Yes, safe together in a country that is really taking care of healthcare and like quarantining and masks. So that's good at least.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so strange to like look from the outside at the United States and be like, wow, I mean, I love being from where I'm from. I love home, but it's just, of all the years that I could have picked to like leave the country, this was a really good one.
Yeah. And you guys are in such a like unique position because Samantha was telling me all like how like, I guess Bern is like very similar to how it usually is, like life is normal. And like you guys can go to the mountains, you can like go hiking, you get to like play your sport that you guys love. So it's really wonderful when so much of the United States is just on hold and like paused for a year. I wish we didn't have to age for a year. That's like my biggest.
That's true. Yeah. It does really feel like everything is taking a time out, but we're not.
Yeah.
Very, very strange times.
Can you talk about your volleyball career? What made you go into volleyball in the first place?
Yeah, my mom actually played volleyball in college. So she is kind of like the fire that started it all. And so when I was really young, she would coach the older girls at my middle school. And because, you know, she was my mom, I would hang out there and I would watch practice. And I just remember thinking that those girls were so cool. Like they would joke around with my mom and then they would hit the volleyball so hard. And I was like, they're awesome. Like I want to be like them. And so my mom, of course, encouraged me when I was in 5th grade is when I started playing. And so she was my coach for my first 2 years. And from that point, we kind of realized like, oh, I'm not horrible at this. No one told me to quit. Every other thing that I'd tried, I'd been told, maybe this isn't for you. I did ballet for a while.
Oh.
And my ballet teacher was like, maybe you should try something else.
Oh no!
I did band. I tried to play the trumpet. And I was also told that maybe I should stick to sports.
Well, you tried. That's valid.
Yeah, I did. I tried it. I tried soccer. And I really was not a fan of the running. So volleyball really felt like the perfect fit to 5th grade me. And from that point, the Midwest has really great volleyball, like club volleyball. I feel like a lot of the clubs in that area are like very good nationally. And so I just ended up at a good club. And so I got some really good instruction early on in my career. And I think that really kind of, you know, was the starting point for being a high level volleyball player. And I loved it.
That's amazing. Wow. And just it's like gone from there, from Murray State to here in Switzerland.
Yeah, it's crazy. I would have never guessed that professional volleyball was something that I would have done, but I feel like every phase of my volleyball career, I've kind of been like, so what's next?
Yeah. And I also read that you're interested in becoming a dentist. Is that still true? Like, can you talk a little bit about that? You have an amazing smile, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Several of these teeth are fake.
Whoa!
Which is actually why I think that dentistry is like a path that I wanted to take so long ago. But I was born without my lateral incisors, which are these second teeth here.
Huh.
And so I had 2 front teeth and then a big gap and then the rest of my teeth. And I kind of looked like SpongeBob, to be completely honest. And so when I was young, I hated the way that my teeth looked. I hated the things kids would say to me about my teeth. You know, kids are horrible.
Yeah.
And so I just always had no confidence in my smile. And then when I started getting braces and getting my teeth fixed and I got like fake teeth put in my retainer, so that drastically changed my confidence. It made me want to talk to people more. And just experiencing that and seeing how having a nice smile can impact my confidence and made me feel more comfortable around people. Like, you know, I was kind of science minded and I was like, great, this is perfect. Like my dentist and my orthodontist changed my life for the better. Like I would love to do that for other people.
Wow, that's wonderful. So that's like somewhere down the line becoming a dentist.
Yeah, so I kind of realized in college that pro volleyball was an option for me. And so I kind of slowed down that track. I did graduate with a degree in biology and a minor in chemistry. So I have the prereqs for dental school. But in this pandemic, I've actually really developed an interest in like science communication. And just I've seen the way that the scientific community failing to properly explain things to the general public can have drastic impacts on like public health and people's mental health. And so, you know, I think that might be something that I kind of want to pursue kind of sooner, and then maybe dental school at a later point, but we'll see.
That's so interesting. The world is your oyster. You have so much time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what people say.
Yeah. And perfect to just like play volleyball now and enjoy.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to not have to make the choice yet.
Yeah, exactly. And something that we always ask on this podcast is, what is your take on womanhood?
My take on womanhood. When I think about like what it is to be a woman, I think that the most common theme is that it's never been the same. Like throughout all of history, being a woman has had various different, you know, definitions and expectations. And I think in that is where we actually find, in my opinion, like the root of womanhood is our adaptability. Because I think that we constantly have to change like little minor details about ourselves to fit into this form that like our male dominated society has said is most appropriate. And, that's more on like a philosophical sense, but also in a literal sense, like the female body is constantly changing. We are able to change so much that we can literally create a new human. So I just think that, the physical makes visible the invisible of like, our spirituality or our essence or our being. And so I just think that adaptability and the ability to hold on to our truest self while the world tries to kind of chip away and make us fit into a different mold is the essence of womanhood.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I never heard it like that, adaptability, and putting ourselves in a sort of mold. So I wonder how, like, as we fight that mold, what it'll continue to look like.
Yeah, I think it'll change probably for the rest of time.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And to follow up on that, if you met anyone on the street, like any woman on the street, like if you just had a sentence, what advice would you give her?
The best advice I think that just a random stranger could get on any given occasion would just be to like choose to love others and let them love you. I know that's so broad and can be interpreted in so many different ways. And I guess I don't really mean love in like the grand Hallmark movie gesture kind of way. I really mean love in more of a practical way. But I just think that especially in crazy times like this, like radically choosing to actively love people is so important because someone has to do it. And why not you?
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think we all need that love right now, like you said.
Yeah.
Choose to love everyone. Or who you're going to love. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And Rachel, is there anything else you'd like to add to our listeners today?
I don't think so.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it was so nice to have you on.
Thank you so much. This has been lovely.